you did time with two guys. I just want to ask you briefly. X-Rated, the well-known rapper from Sacramento.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you met him in prison. What was he like in there?
Oh, he was cool when I met him. Like I said, I opened a prison called Salinas Valley, and X-Rated had just started his time. This was in 1996. We were still really young, and he had just came in and started his time. He had like a life sentence, So, and we ended up in Salinas Valley. And when we got there, it was new. The place was new, so we was tuning in radios trying to find out. Hey man, you guys, anybody found the station yet that played hip hop or something, And then we found the station. And everybody's like, hey man, it's a station. And I found the address somehow to the station. They said it, and I wrote them a letter. And I said they just opened up this new place, and the DJ was like, oh wow, this dude just wrote us, and he read the letter that I wrote over the air, you know. And so when he read the letter over the air, I wrote him again because he said something, and so I responded, and then he read that too. And then X-Rated heard it, and he was like, yeah, I'm here too, and they had already known who he was. They was like, X-Rated, yeah, and then he came on the mic. The DJ was like, oh man, we got this new place. So people start writing them in a lot. So when they start writing in a lot, the DJ said, you know what, we're going to start a radio show called the 8 for 8. I'm going to read 8 letters from guys that's in the prison, and I'm going to play 8 songs in between time. And so they would read a letter that I wrote, and they would play a song by X-Rated. They would read a letter that somebody else wrote and play a song by JD from the Lynch Mob and Ice Cube's group, the Lynch Mob. He was there. He had a life sentence too. And so they would play Lynch Mob music for JD. They would play X-Rated music. They would read my letters. They would read 8 letters and play 8 songs. And so that's how we got to know each other. He introduced himself on the yard to me one day. He was like, you the one that they be talking about? And I was like, yeah, you X-Rated? He was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, I'm fixing to drop an album. He dropped the album called The Unforgiven right there while we was there. I was like, how in the fuck did you do that, man?
Yeah, he recorded it over a phone.
Over the
from
phone.
prison.
Yeah, with the DJ that we met from the radio station up there and stuff, and it ended up being one of his. A lot of people liked it, that album. So yeah, I met him and we talked a few times, but I went home before him and stuff.
Yeah, I've been trying to get him to come on the channel. He's he did get out. And
He did, yeah.
yeah.
He sent me a shout out. He came down here to perform in San Diego, and during this performance, he made a video giving me a shout out. I was like, cool. That was cool, man.
And then you also did time with Harry O.
Oh,
AKA, Michael Harris.
Yeah, Michael Harris, who started Death Row Records, and who actually gave me the opening to my book, Who's Left, that people don't know. But Michael Harris, he started Death Row Records from prison. Suge Knight came up to the prison. He signed it over to him, and he funded the money from the prison for him to start Death Row, gave him instructions on how it was supposed to be ran and all of that. And, and I met him. He told me, how he did everything. We worked out together on the exercise yard. And this is my first time talking about him in an interview, because when I talked to him, I would only say things that I feel are in general about my relationship with him. Anything that he told me beyond that, I wouldn't talk about if I feel like it's something. There's some things that we talked about that I wouldn't say, because it just don't seem like something he would want me to say, and I don't use people's name like that. But we worked out together. He gave me a lot of literature to read all the time. I read a lot of good books that he gave me, and he gave me my first critique on my book. And so I said, I have a manuscript and I want you to look at it. And so we was working out that day. He didn't fuck with a lot of people, and I didn't fuck with nobody. To be honest, that's how we ended up being together. I was like a solo artist. I didn't fuck with nobody. I was single-celled and everything. And they used to look at me and say, that's that crazy dude from Pelican Bay. Because I came from Pelican Bay, and they was like, damn, that's that dude from Pelican Bay. We ain't put nobody in the cell with him, and I didn't talk to nobody. And Harry O would see me, and he would just, and he, And he felt, he said, dude ain't crazy. And he approached me one day. He said, man, I just want to let you know, man, I like the way you do your thing and stuff. He said, I don't think you're crazy. I think police, they just trying to say that in order to, in order to free themselves up because they just don't want to fuck with you. That's what it is. So me and him, we got really cool, man. He reviewed my manuscript, and the first time he reviewed it, that was my first critique. He bought it out to me the next day and handed it to me. Now I said, I know you couldn't read it that fast. He said, I ain't reading no more of it because I don't like it. He said, I don't like he said, you put some names in there. He said, you can't be putting names and you can't be naming names. You can't volunteer people to put names and stuff. He said, you got to be careful with that. He critiqued me, he gave me some lessons, and I actually took his advice and used part of a manuscript I got from him to open up, to do the introduction to my book, So it was crazy being on the yard with him because sometimes famous people would come up there to visit him, or he'd be on the phone and he would tell me, yeah, Dr. Dre, it would just, to casually hear him talk about things with names like that it was kind of honor to me that he accepted me to work out with and to grace his company, which he didn't do with people,
So I know you had a lot of private conversations with him.
I did. That's why I'm kind of moving now and kind of stopping and going, because I'm almost saying stuff, but I just, I kind of protect that with him because he's a pretty private person. He wouldn't mind me talking in general about him in general, that the fact that we worked out together and trade, and he gave me a lot of literature and reviewed my manuscript, but that's about the extent.
I think when I interviewed Gorilla Black was in the feds with him, and he said he gave him a lot of books and a lot of literature.
He did.
Can you say any types of books that he did say, hey, read this and read that?
Well, he gave me, one of the first books he gave me was, where is that book at? Oh, this one. This the one that he gave me right here first. It's called Have Gun Will Travel. And this book is about him too, and how he started Death Row Records. He gave me this book to read, and it blew me away about all the stuff that I read and hear about the industry and about how things started and everything. And it involves him and how he started Death Row Records and everything. And this was the first book that he gave me to read, and it was very informative. It had a lot of stuff in there that I didn't know about how things started, and we would discuss it after I read it. It might take me a few days or something to read the book, and then we would discuss it. He gave me the autobiography of Bob Marley. Oh, Bob so Marley. He gave me the autobiography of Bob Marley. He gave me some other, black type of stuff, pro-black type books to read and educational materials, man, that as soon as I finished with one book, he'd give me another one, and then after I finish it, we would discuss it, while we working out. A lot of times he would get visits and stuff and have to leave halfway through the workout. And a lot of time guys would interrupt our workout to audition for him. I think they would think they was getting ready to get signed to Death Row, but we used to be doing pull-ups and stuff on the pull-up bars and stuff. And all of a sudden here come like 10 dudes walking toward us. And one of them would be rapping and stuff, and the other ones would be pointing to him, and they'd be like, hey, Harry, you got to hear him. You got to hear him, man. He ready to sign. And Harry, he would stop. He'd look at me, and I'd be like, and he'd be like, "Come on, man, give me what you working with." And dude would start rapping, and he would listen to him. Then he would tell him, how he feel about it, and then we go on back to working out.
All right. So if anybody wants to read, get your book, read about some of this San Diego history, give us the title again, and how can they contact you?
They would get it from me on Facebook. on my Facebook page because I don't have it on Amazon. I only have it on Facebook, and I normally print on demand. I have copies of Cellmates and Sellouts that are available right now, and I mail them to people with a valid address. I sell that book and I'll charge $5 shipping and handling, and I'll mail it to you the same day, Cash App or whatever. And for my people in San Diego, a lot of people from San Diego Cash App me, and I mail to them here too without even meeting them and stuff. Some people I met that live in the area and stuff, but a lot I mail to anyway. I have Cellmates and Sellouts of the book Who's Left. I'm going through, that book's going through an edit. So I'm re-editing that book right now, and I'm gonna re-release it with a different book cover and with a professional edit and a different introduction.
All right, so I want to thank you, Curt, for inviting me into your space, into your home here. And what are some final thoughts before we wrap this interview that you'd like to say to the people?
Final thoughts, people, you know, I talked about this today. It's only about history that I talk about this. Right now, I'm the lead organizer for a group called All of Us or None. I'm the president of the San Diego chapter, and we deal with, we advocate prisoners' rights for formerly incarcerated people to help people get jobs. Right now I work with a homeless committee here in San Diego to help formerly incarcerated people get housed when they get out, jobs, employments, and health care, and all of that to get people back on track, you know, and to help formerly incarcerated people because of how much it had an impact on me. And I work at the homeless community, so that's what I do now. I talk about these things only for history, only to solve and to shed light on the history of things, not to brag or boast about anything. I don't talk about criminal acts when I talk about these things, and I want people to learn from things and to get a message out of anything that I talk from, and to just support what's right now, bro, you know.